Hi, folks. Ignore the logo on my shirt. The other day I posted a video on YouTube in kind of a response to a guy's video on TikTok about how it felt to live back in the mid 2000s and kind of what experiences we had then, and how joyful it felt to be bored and to be slow and lazy, and how it was kind of inspiring. And I hadn't felt that kind of joy or peace in a long time, very long time, probably about 20 years, maybe not 20, 10 at least. This morning I woke up and felt it again. That joy, that peace. And my mind seems very clear today. Very free from fear of any kind. And I opened up TikTok. I started scrolling like I do every morning, because that's where I get my news now. I get my news from The Daily Show, Stephen Colbert, the occasional article that pops up on my feed, and then TikTok, the events of the world. And there's a lot of bad shit going on right now in the world. And yet I woke up with just this overwhelming feeling of peace. And thoughts started coming to me. Some interesting ones. And I'd like to hear what people have to say. I'd like to see your comments and your thoughts, so we can begin having a dialogue on some of these thoughts that are coming to my brain, because I want to suss them out. I want to make sure that I'm not missing things as aspects of reality. I've been reading a lot, not studying diligently, because I can't do calculus yet. I hope I can soon. I've been reading a lot and investigating a lot about quantum physics. I've read Michio Kaku's book, The God Equation. I'm reading another one of his books right now about quantum physics and consciousness. I read like The Beginner's Guide to Quantum Physics, and went on to the Super Collider's website, where they actually have a part of the Super Collider website where it describes string theory in very little detail. It gives you just enough to be dangerous, gives you just enough to kind of conceptualize about it. But a lot of it, if you read about quantum physics, you start reading about these experiments that they ran back in the early 1900s, where they were actually discovering that electronic behavior of electrons, was only perceivable with someone in the room. Kind of meaning, like, when they would, I don't remember the experiment exactly, you have to go read it. Just go read it, go dig in a little bit. But when they fired these electron particles at a sheet of foil, I believe it was, and then they had something behind the foil to effectively like reflect back to them to see where the electron was. The electron would shoot at the foil and be in multiple different locations when it was passing through the foil. And only when an observer, a researcher, was looking did the electron collapse into one location on the other side of the foil. When he left the room, they were scattered all over the plate, and the only way that they knew that is because they had the receiver behind the foil saying the electron, this one electron, is everywhere. It's not in one location. And it was only when the researcher walked back into the room did it collapse and form into this one location. The one-to-one connection there, y'all, is we, even proven in quantum physics, scientifically, we create our reality. So then now that cascaded my thoughts down the length of, okay, if that is what's occurring in the quantum physics side, on the smallest subatomic particles that we can perceive, then what about the reductionist scientific method? And by reductionist scientific method, I mean The way we do science right now, if you've taken any research classes in college, or even if you've taken a high school research class, you know the scientific method is effectively you form a hypothesis, you have an idea, you take that idea, and you test it on your environment. You either test it on people, animals, rats, whatever. And the goal is to find commonalities between each result or each instance when you go to push that hypothesis. And then they put on these experiments what they call controls, which I kind of think of as walls or rules of the game. Rules of this experiment are X, Y, and Z. Well, when you put controls on, all of a sudden you're creating an isolated environment where the collective belief of the researchers and the collective belief of the groups of individuals is going to influence the result. So then it brings up collective consciousness. And I had this thought the other day. I want you to run with this. If we took a bunch of reductionist scientific method people from this era of science and technology, and we took them back to the 1800s without them knowing, and this is just a thought experiment, without them knowing anything, and we told these scientists, I want you to analyze data on how many human beings fly. They're going to come back and say, no human beings fly. 100% of human beings do not fly. Because it's the 1800s. The early 1800s. And flying machines have not been, they may have been discovered, but they have not been built and actually successfully launched at this point. So they're going to say 100% humans cannot fly. But now if we took those same researchers today and we said, I want you to analyze how many people fly in the world at any given time, they're going to say like at least half the human population on Earth flies throughout the year. I don't know if that's an actual number or not. I'm sure there are flight statistics and data on that. But it's going to be a much higher number, a much higher rate of probability, a much higher rate of data. And so now that we do that, we need to take that concept and apply it across any scientific method that we propagate. Because the reality is, the things that we have not discovered yet, the things that we have not come to acknowledge are a potential reality, are a potential possibility, we shut down and say, it doesn't exist, it doesn't happen. Why? Why do we do that? Why is it that science is so clouded in its judgment to think that because we can't replicate data now at this current point in time, that it's not possible at all that it exists? And so now I'm listening to a podcast by with Armchair Expert, with Dax Shepard, and he's talking, from last week, he's talking to a super communicator. Can't remember his name. Go listen to the podcast. It's really interesting. And they're talking about how different areas of the brain, they call it neural synchronicity or neural simultaneity, where human beings are thinking, end up getting on the same thought track because the same neurons that are in person A's brain are the same neurons that are firing in person B's brain. And they're calling it neurosynchronicity or neurosimultaneity. It's fucking telepathy. It's the same thing. And for years, we have been quibbling over the label we put on it, and we think to ourselves, telepathy is too woo-woo, it's too nutso. There's no way it's telepathy. But if we call it neurosynchronicity or neurosimultaneity, then all of a sudden it's a real thing because science said it was. But science refused to go down that research path for years, and now we finally are. And we're documenting it, and we're proving it. And it's just the same thing, only with a different label. It's telepathy. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. Please post, like, share, do something with this, because this is fucking cool discussion.